Man, oh man. I tell you what, debt is not a joke. Having to owe people and pay people, especially as a builder, it's not a joke. Well, let's get into it. All right, guys. I'm here today. I want to get into this little discussion right here, and guys, this is about home builders' debt. And I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. If you're a builder and you're not used to debt, this probably ain't the game you want to be in. You're gonna, I always look at myself as a builder as feast or famine. You know, you're gonna owe a lot of people, and you're gonna have to pay a lot of people. And a lot of time, that debt that you're gonna have is, and here's the thing, man. Those debts are gonna be so big, you're not gonna be able to take your personal money and try to pay for items on it because they're just so big. You know, any small item on a house, on a home, those items can be so big until, it's too expensive for you to be trying to maneuver and trying to pay these things with your personal money, especially money that you use to pay bills at the house. Um, One thing I would like to say before we get into this right here is you may hear anything. You may hear the dog barking. I'm working from home today, so you may hear anything. The dog may be hollering. The kids may be making noise. So um, bear with me. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is let's jump right into it. So builder debt, guys, like I said, it's inevitable. You're gonna have builder debt, and you have to manage that debt, guys. But these are ways that you can actually avoid having a lot of debt as a builder. Because if you mess around and get a lot of debt and you can't pay these guys off, in the state of Alabama, they do what they call a Holloway credit report. And that credit report is gonna make sure you don't owe a lot of people. And if you owe people and you don't pay them, they will not issue your builder's license the next year. This is how it works. There's ways, there's ways to avoid being in a lot of debt. But let's get into a couple different ways that you can avoid getting into debt. I got my little list right here. The first way, it's gonna sound kind of odd, but make sure you charge. When you're a builder and you're a home builder, first thing you got to do is you got to make sure you charge enough money. Because if you don't charge enough, you'll end up paying for somebody else's house. That's just the way it works. So you got to make sure you charge enough money. You got to make sure you charge enough to pay off your subcontractors or your suppliers or what have you. And you got to have enough to pay your overhead at your overhead. And you got to have enough to make a profit. And you got to have some money to put to the side to where you can invest back into the company to grow the company. And a lot of builders look at that as 20%. And I put a link to another video on how to charge and builders markups in the description box. But you gotta make sure you charge enough, because if you're not making enough money, the first thing you won't be able to do, and one of the main things you won't be able to do, is you won't be able to finish the job. Then on top of not being able to finish the job, you're not gonna have enough money to deal with the warranties. Guys, you don't really know how much you make on a job site until about a year after you finish that job. It takes about a whole year because every time you go back to deal with a warranty item, you're losing money. It costs your time, it costs your money to go out there and deal with that problem, and that's your profit going away. And not only that, now here in the state of Alabama, you have to offer the homeowners 7 years. I mean, 7 years of warranty. Now, there's a way to do it. Typically what I do is, I charge 1% each additional year. Say for instance, you got a $500,000 house. The first year is on me, and then the second year, that's going to cost you another. I mark up the house another $5,000. Then the next, if you want to go 3 years, it's going to be $10,000, and you keep going all the way up to 7 years. Typically, the homeowner is going to the homeowner is going to say, "Hey, I don't want to pay additional warranty." But now your mechanical, electrical, plumbers, and things like your garage doors and things like that, you just simply they usually give you a warranty. You as the builder, you pass that warranty to the homeowner. But you don't know what you're going to make to a year afterward. And if you're not charging enough to deal with the warranties and deal with your overhead and all the stuff and actually make a profit, how are you going to feel when you go back and have to deal with that warranty? Especially if you done ran out of money. A lot of homeowners, they kind of look at it as a badge of honor, when they jew the builders down all the way down to where he don't make any money, he or she. You got a lot of good female builders out there too, but when they jew you down and you get to the point as a builder, you've been paid interest enough on this particular spec house, and you just can't take it anymore, so you're being forced almost to go ahead and give it away, and you don't make any money. But the homeowners, sometimes they look at it as a badge of honor when they get you to come down off your costs really, really, low, and you don't make any money. But that homeowner has to understand too that who's going to warranty your house now. So it's not to the homeowners or the builder's benefit to not have enough money in there to finish that house and do a good job. So one way to not get into builder debt is to make sure you charge right or charge enough, guys. That is critical. I mean, absolutely critical. Now, and the way you want to make sure you charge enough, guys, is number one, guys, you're going to have to get some software. If you're a builder in today's time, you're going to have to, you just can't do it all. Either you're going to get some software or you're going to get a staff to help you. If you want these builders in the truck, you kind of one-man show, you better have some really good software, and you better be very efficient in that software. You better know how to navigate through that software. Now, I have a software that I use, but you need to do line item per line item, guys. You don't go in here and do what they call a square footage cost. A lot of builders will call me and say, "Well, man, how much are you building right now?" I kind of give them what my last couple of houses are, but that's just a template, just so I can kind of get a good idea of what the market looks like. But guys, you better get that. See, you got to get a set of those plans, and you literally have to take each item on those plans and price it. You might have 70 or 80 different line items, guys. Maybe even more than that when you get done. And you sit down and you need to calculate every part of that house, that structure, all the way from the footings, excavation, framing labor. Everything needs to be broken down. You need to have your taxes in there. You need to have all that stuff in there. I used to have a lot of guys, a lot of my lumber suppliers were notorious about this, man. They would send me a quote and they don't put the taxes on there. And I've had one or two times where I got started on the house and I just realized, man, these guys didn't put the taxes on there because I was just putting their stuff in my software. But guys, make sure you see all of that stuff. And you better do it line item per line item. And once you get that cost, and the guys, it gets to now, I'm almost just as surprised as the homeowner when I get my price at the end, because I'm doing everything line item. When I get down to the end and I put the last line item in, oh man, these houses are getting expensive, or these houses are getting cheaper. These are the things that I see. So you got to make sure you get a good quote, a good solid quote, man. and that's gonna help you get your costs right, so that you can make sure you charging right, so that you can make sure that you add enough profit. And a lot of people is getting to the point now where we are, you get your quote out there, and you put your profit in there, and people walk away. Well, guys, if you're not making what you need to make, you need to walk away from that job. Especially if you are comparable to other builders in the area. Guys, it's better to miss out on a good deal than to buy into a bad one. So get your costs right. Another thing you can do, this is number 3, kind of off on my numbers here. Another thing that you can do, guys, is one thing that you got to make sure your suppliers, subcontractors, and everybody come on that job, make sure they're charging you right. Make sure their charges are correct. Make sure they're not overcharging you, especially when you get down to your excavators. Like your excavators, guys, that, in a lot of cases, they charge you based on time. Make sure their cost is correct. You don't want to get down to it, and these guys are $1,000 over, and they, because if you got enough subcontractors that overcharge you, let's just say $100, you got 10 of them to do it. That's $1,000. These guys can get their numbers out of whack real quick. Now, a lot of companies have what they call purchase orders. Purchase orders can help keep everybody in line. But that's one thing that you just got to make sure that every time you do one particular line item, you make sure those guys are charging you correct. They're invoicing you correctly. Make sure they're not double invoicing you. I've had subcontractors to double invoice me. I've had them to double invoice me. If I paid them, they just took the money. If I called it, they say, "Oh, my bad, I made a mistake." So you got to be careful with that. So you gotta watch your subs. Make sure everybody's charging you correctly. Another thing that you guys can do is, I talk to builders a lot. Guys, you got to make sure you got a solid contract. Make sure your contract is solid. Make sure you really outline things. Make sure that there are not anything that's ambiguous or confusing in your contract to where someone can think one way on something and another way on something else. I got into that on one particular job site I had. The intent was there, but when I called, it was something different. And so you got to make sure, and guys, consult with an attorney, guys. You need to have you an attorney. Just, you're gonna have to have an attorney. And this right here, it's just too many places where you can go wrong and make mistakes that people are gonna try to exploit that on you. So you better have a really good attorney, or somebody that you work with on your behalf, that's very knowledgeable in the, if you're in residential home building, make sure they are in residential home building as well, and that's kind of their specialty. But make sure you have make sure you have an attorney, a legal advisor, and have them look over your contracts before you get into them. Because I think I had a situation where the intent was there, like on the homeowner, I said, "Hey, look, if you go over on these items right here, you pay the difference." But they was like, "Nah, you call these items something else." We got into if you call them allowances or decorations or what you have. I called them something different, but the intent was there. And typically, guys, in the law, the intent is what reigns supreme. So, but the intent was there, but those guys used that as a way to not pay. And a lot of times you deal with that. You deal with homeowners, not saying all homeowners are like that, but some people are, when they start seeing that money that they got to pay, they don't be wanting to pay that money, man, and they come up with a reason not to. So you don't want to get into that. So guys, just make sure you have legal advice to help you with your contracts, and make sure your contracts are solid, to where these are your charges, and this is how you charge. Um, um, and you want to make sure. There's one more thing in that when you're dealing with those contracts, just make sure you. Well, I kind of forgot my train of thought right there because I was looking at this next item. I may come back on that one, but like I said, guys, make sure your contract is strong. Stipulate what they'll pay for. Make sure I got it. Make sure you deal with change orders. Change orders is another way that you can get into debt as a builder because, sometimes you end up having to pay more for those change orders than you thought you were going to have to pay, and that increases debt on you. Or sometimes you just try to hurry up and get to the end of it, and you miscalculate that change order just trying to hurry up and do things. So sometimes, if you're a builder, a lot of builders like to be out in the field dealing with the field stuff, and they don't like to have to sit down and do the administrative side, especially change orders. That's why you'll see a lot of builders will charge you a whole lot of money for change orders because they really don't want to do them. Change orders can make you money, but they can also take money away from you if you're not savvy administratively, or if you're not taking time to sit down and get those change orders together and calculate them correctly. Another thing you don't want to do, guys, as a builder, is you don't want to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. Well, not in that sense, guys. You don't want to borrow from one job site to pay another job site. You need to let both job sites be individual. They should have nothing to do with one another. If I got job site A over here and job site B over here, their financials are totally different. Totally different. Don't take money from the bank on this job site and use it for this other job site to catch up. Don't do that. I wouldn't do that. Let each one of them stand on their own. That's another way that you can kind of hurt yourself. Another thing that you can do, guys, is as a builder, to keep you out of debt, treat yourself like a subcontractor. You get paid, you have a fee, maybe 6 different draws on this job site, and you pull your, this is your fee once you get to this particular point. And you can treat yourself, your subcontractors are going to get paid. You make sure your subcontractors and those guys get paid and your suppliers get paid, but treat yourself like a subcontractor. Don't wait till the end and you do the whole job, and then at the end you get your fee. Well, a lot of time, if you're doing a custom job, you may not make anything at the end. You realize that you didn't get anything at the end, man. You did all that work and you didn't get paid. So treat yourself like a subcontractor. That way, each phase you kind of keep up with things. All right, you stop at this phase. All right, make sure everybody get paid on this phase, and then if everybody gets paid, then you go to the next phase. Then the next phase. I'd probably break it up into 8 to 10 different phases if I can. And you just treat yourself like a subcontractor. It's just like when you pay your subcontractor, you get paid that particular time. Another thing you want to do, guys, you want to make sure, I would do everything I can to work it out with that homeowner. If I got a homeowner, sometimes homeowner runs in, I've had homeowners to run into a tight. In some cases, they may not have the money right away, because you're looking at $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 sometimes. Sometimes we miscalculate stuff. But as a builder, guys, you need to hold yourself accountable. On the front end, you need to make sure you get your costs right. But now if you got change orders and things like that, some things came in, they made adjustments and things like that. Now I would tell you guys that, before you do any change orders, and kind of gets back to those change orders again, but I would say before you do any of those change orders, you need to make sure that you get paid up front before you even initiate those change orders, because, that could be a recipe for disaster, guys. That can get you into debt. Because if you miscalculate it, then you go to the homeowner and say, hey, it's going to be this much. I thought it was going to be this much, but it's really going to be this much. Or then if you kind of do those change orders really, really quick, and you didn't really calculate the total cost of those change orders to its entirety, and that homeowner pay you for that change order, and you do it, and it end up costing you more money, you're gonna have to eat that cost. This will get you into more debt. You got to eat that cost now. So be careful with those change orders. But at the end of the day, you know, I think the best way to do anything in a building now in today's market, just be very transparent. Just be transparent. I don't have a problem with me being treated like a subcontractor, and you actually see exactly what I make. It doesn't bother me at all. You know, now sometimes you may have some homeowners can't digest the fact that this builder is probably going to make this much money off you. And, you know, but at the end of the day, it's not like we really make a whole lot of money, you know, when taxes get a hold to it and other things, overhead and stuff like that. You know, it's not as much as they think it's going to be, but try to work through it. You know, like I found out a lot of cases, my homeowners, if we work together on the deal and you know, sometimes it may be that I have to extend that homeowner a loan, but they have to be willing to sign a contract. You know, I may extend the loan, say, hey, I'm going to pay you, or they're going to pay me $2,000 a month until we're done. I don't have a problem with that. And the last thing you want to do is get into a legal battle with anybody, because really, to be honest with you guys, when you look at attorneys, you know, guys, you know, we think attorneys are here to win a case. That's not what they're there for. These attorneys are there to represent you. That's their job. It's simply to represent you. Whether they win or lose, they're going to get paid. But their job is simply to represent you, not to win. So we think about winning and losing. And, you know, if you look at, I got a situation right now, guys, that I had a legal situation to where if the homeowner had just worked it out, we could have just worked that out without even seeking legal ramifications. And it would have been cheaper on both sides. So at the end of the day, you know, you guys sit down, and that's why there should be an open line of communication with both homeowners and builder. And I think that you should do what you can do to try to work through this. And like I said, me as a builder, I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. You know, there are ways to make things work. You know, if you're a little short on money on this side, we need to figure this thing out. Now, there's a certain point to where it just ain't going to work. You just ain't got enough money to make it work. And, you know, at that point, in some cases, the job may have to stop until we can figure that out. But there are a lot of ways you can figure things out in today's market to try to work it out. One thing that, as a builder, a lot of time, to keep you out of debt, guys, a lot of time the homeowners they're gonna be looking at this thing from an emotional standpoint. It's gonna be emotional for them. It's gonna be so they're gonna have an emotional connection with this home. So they're not gonna be focused on costs like the builder is gonna be focused on costs. So, like as a builder, man, the one thing I have to do is I have to really, really watch my costs. I have to watch everybody. I have to watch and make sure everybody get paid correctly, but everybody's charging the right thing. But I have to watch. You know, you need to have some kind of way that you can look at this whole job site as a whole and make sure that you're able to see that you're going over on this, under on this right here, whether you're balancing that thing out or not. You got to be able to see all that stuff, because you got to be able, as a builder, it's not going to do you any good if you don't finish the job. That makes everybody look bad. So the name of the game, really, you want to finish the job. So figure out a way to finish it. Now, as far as paying, you know, when you do get into debt, You know, when there's debt going or you have bills and stuff that you got to pay. Guys, I typically like to pay my subcontractors first. And my subcontractors are going to be my MEPs, mechanical, electrical, plumbers. Are the guys who actually come over there and, you know, they hands-on do work. Then typically the second person is going to be my suppliers. You know, my suppliers are going to get, because they're usually going to give you a 30-day turnaround to pay. They're going to send you an invoice. Well, everybody's going to give you a 30-day, but in some cases, the subcontractors, those guys want to get paid every Friday or the next Friday or whatever. But I try to pay those guys first. Then I pay my suppliers, you know, the lumber supplier, those guys, they usually have a net 30-day. And some of them, if you pay within 30 days, they give you a 1% discount. Those 1% discounts can really add up. So keep that in mind as well. But I like to pay those guys next on hierarchy. Last person gets paid is going to be me. I would rather my subs get paid before I get paid. I just, you know, that's why I try to make sure I charge enough so that everybody can get paid, even me. But I want to make sure those subcontractors get paid. Man, you know, I don't like guys that show up on my site and don't get paid. Sometimes it may take a little longer, man. You know, if it takes a little longer for you to pay them because you got to get the money from the bank, or the guy that came in and did the draw with the bank didn't release all the money and you got to get them paid, guys, make sure you have an open line of communication with those subs. Make sure you're talking to them. Don't just, you know, when they call, don't avoid them. Tell them what your plan is. If you're in a tight, you tell them what the plan is. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm working on. We're going to get you taken care of. You got to assure those guys that you're gonna pay them, because if you don't, the first thing they're going to do, man, because they only have a limited amount of time when they invoice you to seek remedy. And if they don't get remedy, their only remedy is a lien. That's the only remedy. And if they go out here and they don't utilize their remedy, they lost. So you got to understand. I mean, and you know, so when they put liens on properties and stuff like that, you got to understand it from their point of view. That's the only remedy. But you as a builder, you need to make sure that if you owe them, that you got an open line of communication with those guys, with those subcontractors. You got to, and don't just not pick up the phone. Hey man, look, I'm working on this right here. I'm doing this right here. And at the end of the day, pay them. Get them paid. Figure out a way to get them paid. All right, guys. It's just a quick one. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you had any other questions, you guys can, you know, put it in the comment box. Also, guys, do the thumbs up, thumbs down. You know, make sure you guys do that, because that really helps the algorithm, helps more people see this right here. All right, you guys have a good one.